I was 12 the summer my parents sent me to a sleepaway camp in the deep woods of Oregon. It was supposed to be a classic childhood adventure. Canoes on misty lakes, s'mores by the fire, endless trails through pine and cedar. The kind of wholesome, woodsy retreat where the only thing you feared was poison ivy or dropping your flashlight during a ghost story. The camp was nestled in the Willamette National Forest, a 3-hour drive from anything resembling civilization. No cell reception, no internet, just trees. Thousands and thousands of them. The cabins were old, creaky, and coated in that smell of damp wood that never really leaves. Even during the day, there was something off, like the forest was watching. Breathing, the staff, of course, played up the spooky vibe. It's all part of the experience, they'd say, winking after telling us some local legend about witches or vanished hikers. But it was harmless fun. At least it was supposed to be. That changed on the 7th night. Our counselor, Jess, a woman in her late 20s with a permanent sunburn and a bright, nervous laugh, gathered the 10 of us for what she called a midnight campfire. Just for fun, she said, to scare each other a little. Tell ghost stories, roast marshmallows, then sneak back to the cabins like brave little campers. We were thrilled, flashlights bobbing, blankets wrapped tight. We followed her down a trail behind the mess hall to a clearing none of us had seen before. The trees there were massive and tightly packed, their trunks like dark pillars, branches interlocking far overhead to blot out the sky. Even with the fire blazing, the darkness just beyond the light felt too thick, like it had weight. The air was colder there, too. Not just chilly. Wrong. The kind of cold that seeps into your bones and makes your skin itch. We sat in a circle, trying to act brave as we traded creepy tales about ghosts in the lake and campers who never came home. It was all pretend. All fun until Jason pointed. "Who's that?" he whispered. We laughed. "Nice try," someone snorted. But he wasn't joking. I turned and followed his gaze, and I saw it. We all saw it. Just beyond the trees, where the firelight thinned and flickered, stood a figure, perfectly still, partially hidden by the shadows, but just close enough to make out details we'd wish we hadn't. It looked human, mostly, but the proportions were wrong, uncanny. It was tall, at least 7 feet, and unnaturally thin, like something that had been starved for years. Its arms hung too low, past its knees, and its hands were massive and limp, with long fingers that seemed to twitch at the ends. Its skin wasn't right, pale, sickly, the color of old wax, stretched tight over bones that jutted out at strange angles. The face was the worst. At first glance, it looked like a man's face, but then you noticed the lack of expression. The skin was too smooth, too motionless. No blinking, no breathing, just 2 large glassy eyes reflecting the firelight like a deer's and a mouth that hung open slightly, revealing 2 straight teeth, like they'd been placed there. Like someone wearing a human mask, but forgetting how it was supposed to move. He didn't say anything, didn't make a sound, just stared. Jess stood up slowly, her voice trembling as she called out, "Hey, are you okay? Are you lost?" Nothing. She took a step forward, clutching her flashlight. That's when it moved, but not like a person. It didn't walk, it didn't turn, it just vanished, like someone blowing out a candle. One blink it was there, looming, watching, and the next, it was gone. Not running, gone. The shadows swallowed it whole and the woods fell deathly silent. Even the fire crackled quieter, like it didn't want to draw attention. Jess turned back to us, pale as ash. "Back to the cabins," she whispered. No jokes, no laughter. The walk back was tense. We huddled close together, eyes darting into the woods. Every snapped twig made someone flinch. No one spoke. None of us slept easy that night. I was in cabin bunkhouse 3, the top bunk by the back window. It was after 2 a.m. when I woke up. The room was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that presses down on your chest. Then came the sound. Scratch, scratch, scratch at the window, right behind me. Slow, deliberate, deep. I froze. I knew that window was 6 feet off the ground. There was no porch, no ledge, and no one, no thing should be able to reach it. But the scratching continued. I wanted to turn. I needed to turn. But something deep inside screamed at me not to, like some primal warning, something ancient. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would wake the others. And then it breathed, a long, low exhale, from the other side of the glass. I felt it, warm and wet on the back of my neck, like a whisper from the dark. I bit down on my sleeping bag to keep from screaming. After what felt like hours, the sound stopped. No more scratching, no more breath. But I didn't move. I didn't sleep. In the morning, I finally dared to look. The window was fogged over, but there, etched into the wood around the frame, were 4 deep grooves. Long, sharp, each one nearly 2 feet in length, like claws or fingers with jagged nails. I called Jess over. She stared at them for a long time, said nothing. She didn't even try to lie or reassure us. She just walked away. That day, the trail to the campfire clearing was roped off. Bear activity, they claimed, but there were no tracks, no signs, and no one reported seeing anything else. I never went back to that camp, not the next summer, not ever, and sometimes, when I'm alone at night, when the lights are off and the world goes quiet, I still hear it, that slow, wet breath, and I feel those eyes, just beyond the firelight, waiting, watching, like it never really left, like it's just waiting for me to look again, and this time, I don't think it'll vanish. You don't realize how loud the world is until you're in the middle of nowhere. 3 of us, me, Ben, and Tyler, headed into the Rockies for what we thought would be a peaceful weekend. Backpacking, stargazing, detoxing from the city. No phones, no noise, no people. Just mountains, pines, and the kind of quiet you can feel. By Friday afternoon, we were 10 miles deep, off any marked trail, completely alone. No tire tracks, no distant hum of cars, not even bird songs sometimes, just the occasional gust of wind whistling through ancient trees. We found a small clearing surrounded by dense forest. Towering pines loomed on all sides like silent sentinels. The canopy above was so thick that even midday light struggled to filter through. It was perfect. We set up camp, built a fire, and spent the evening swapping dumb stories and watching stars needle through the black sky. By the time we turned in, the silence around us was deafening, the kind that presses in on your ears and makes your heart sound too loud. We slept like corpses that first night, but the second night broke something in us. 1:12 a.m. I woke up to screaming, not a distant echo, not some muffled cry drifting down a canyon. It was right outside the tent, a woman's voice, shrieking, sobbing, "Help me! Please, someone help!" She sounded like she was being torn apart. Her words were soaked in terror. Raw, choked. I shot upright, every hair on my body standing on end. Tyler jolted awake next to me, eyes wide, breath frozen in his chest. Ben didn't say a word. He grabbed the flashlight and his hunting knife in one movement and unzipped the tent. The zipper's sound was like a gunshot in the silence. I expected chaos. A bleeding woman, a bear, a car crash, something. But the clearing outside was completely still. The fire had long died down, but there was enough moonlight to see. And we saw nothing. No movement, no figure, no footprints in the dirt. Just trees, black and tall, pressed shoulder to shoulder around our camp. We called out, "Hello? "Are you okay?" No response. Ben stepped out, scanning with the flashlight. Tyler grabbed the hatchet. I stayed frozen, halfway out of the tent, stomach twisting. Then the scream came again. "Help me!" But now it was coming from behind us, on the opposite side of the clearing. No one could have moved that fast, not through that thick underbrush, not silently. Ben turned sharply. The light caught nothing but trees and shadow. Then he whispered, barely audible. "I saw her." We all turned. Ben was pale, really pale, like he'd lost a pint of blood. "She was standing behind that tree," he said, pointing. "But she wasn't..." "Right. What do you mean?" I asked. "She was just watching me. Her head was tilted too far, like it didn't have bones, and when she moved..." His voice cracked. "She didn't walk. She slid, like her feet weren't touching the ground." That's when I felt it. A presence, like we were being circled, watched, studied. Suddenly, the trees didn't feel like trees anymore. They felt like eyes. "Help me!" Again, closer now, like it was between the trees, just out of sight. Same exact words, same inflection, no breath variations, no human panic, just a recording of fear played on loop. Tyler muttered, "That's not a person." Something about the voice. It knew the words but didn't understand them, like a child repeating a sentence it didn't comprehend. "Pack your shit," I said. We didn't argue. We tore down camp in 10 minutes flat. Didn't care what we left behind. Tent stakes, cookware, even Ben's backup knife. Then we ran. 3 miles. Through dense woods in the pitch black. The path was barely visible in our flashlight beams, and every time the wind blew, we thought we heard her again. Sometimes from the trees, sometimes from above us. Once, it whispered directly behind me. "Help me!" I didn't look. I just ran harder. At one point, Tyler stopped and screamed, "Stop messing with us!" Into the dark. We didn't respond. We knew he wasn't yelling at us. By the time we reached the car, dawn was bleeding across the horizon. The warmth of the sun did nothing. I was shaking so bad I couldn't get the key in the ignition. When we finally started driving, none of us spoke for hours. We were too afraid to ask the question we were all thinking. What the hell followed us out there? Back home, I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. My dreams were filled with her voice. That broken, too-perfect voice echoing from the trees. I started digging, forums, wilderness blogs, Reddit threads buried under years of silence. And I found them. Posts from hikers, campers, even rangers. Stories about voices in the woods that sound almost human. They call for help. They beg. They scream. Sometimes they mimic loved ones. Sometimes they mimic you. No one agrees on what they are. Some say it's just wind. Some say it's cougars. They can sound like women screaming. Some say it's sleep paralysis, hallucinations. But Ben saw it, and I heard it. And no animal mimics human words that well, and no hallucination leaves behind footprints we didn't make. Yeah, we found them the next day, when we went back. One set of prints, barefoot, circling our tent, again and again and again. Whatever was out there, it wasn't lost. It wasn't hurt. It was hungry. The summer after high school felt like a slow burning dream. I had no job lined up yet, no college classes to worry about, just freedom. I went to stay with my cousin Zach in rural Florida, the kind of place where houses are spaced far apart and the night hums with the sound of things you never quite see. His family lived on the edge of a sprawling thicket of pine woods and thick cypress swamp. Real Florida wild. The kind of place where, if you walked far enough off trail, you might not find your way back. The locals talked about it like it was alive. "Don't go out there at night," they'd say. "Too many things that don't belong." We brushed it off, of course. We were kids. Invincible. Zach and I spent the days floating in the lake behind his house and the nights around his fire pit, staying up until our eyes burned, half drunk on the humidity and the buzz of summer freedom. But one night, things changed. It was just after 2 a.m. The fire was burning low, casting flickering shadows across the backyard. The air had that wet, heavy stillness, the kind that makes you feel like something's watching you, even if you don't know from where. We were sitting in lawn chairs, talking quietly when I saw it. Out past the tree line, maybe 30, 40 feet into the woods, something was swaying, just slightly, almost lazily. I leaned forward. It was a hammock. At first, it didn't register. My brain tried to make sense of it. Had it been there before? Was it Zach's? But I knew we'd been out there every night. There was no hammock yesterday, or the day before. There was no hammock ever. "Hey," I said, nudging Zach. "You see that?" He squinted, and his face immediately shifted into a frown. "We don't have a hammock." The words hit me like cold water. The thing out there, it didn't belong. We grabbed our flashlights, clicked them on, and started walking toward the trees. Each step felt heavier. As we crossed from grass to brush, the sounds of the night seemed to fade. The cicadas quieted. No frogs, no breeze. Just the soft crunch of twigs and the distant slap of something moving in swamp water. Then the smell hit us. Rot. Not just swamp rot. Something worse. Something sweet and rotting, like flesh left to stew in the heat. Zach gagged. I covered my mouth with my sleeve. The smell was so thick it coated the back of my throat. We kept walking. When we were about 10 feet from the hammock, the beams of our flashlights finally caught it in full. The thing looked like it had been there for decades, mold-covered cloth, sagging in the middle, tied with what looked like torn bed sheets instead of rope. The fabric was shredded, like it had been clawed at or chewed. There was something in it. A man. He was lying still, too still, shirtless, skin pale and clammy like uncooked meat, with veins that looked like dark cracks, spider-webbing under his skin. His limbs dangled awkwardly off the hammock, as if they'd gone boneless. His head lolled back unnaturally far, like his neck was broken, and his mouth was frozen into this impossibly wide grin. His teeth were dark and crooked. His lips curled like the skin was tearing from the stretch. But what I remember most were his eyes. Wide, glassy, unblinking, staring straight up into the canopy, like he was watching something we couldn't see. Zach whispered, "Is he dead?" I nodded, unable to speak. I was already pulling my phone out to call 911 when it happened. He blinked. Once, deliberately, like he knew we were there. Then his whole body twitched, his limbs jerked like a marionette being yanked to life. He sat up in one horrible, unnatural motion, and he looked at us. His mouth opened, and he let out this sound I still hear in my dreams. It wasn't a word, it wasn't a scream. It was a wheezing, shuddering exhale, like his lungs were full of dust and swamp water, like it was the first breath he'd taken in years. That was all we needed. We turned and ran. Through the underbrush, across the wet lawn, tripping, falling, cutting ourselves on branches. My flashlight flew from my hand. My phone was gone. We didn't care. Back at the house, we slammed the door shut and locked every bolt we could find. The cops showed up 10 minutes later. When we led them back to the woods, the hammock was gone. So was the man. All that was left were the faintest impressions in the mud, bare footprints, human-sized, leading straight into the swamp. No drag marks, no trail out. Just vanished. The next morning, Animal Control found something. About 100 yards into the woods, they found a bundle of clothes draped over the branch of a cypress tree. Pants, a flannel shirt, underwear, all mud-soaked, tangled with moss. The strange thing was, they were dry on the inside, like they'd been peeled off a body that had evaporated. There were no tags, no wallet, no ID, They ran the fabric for DNA. Nothing matched. To this day, no one knows who he was or what he was. We never saw the hammock again. But sometimes, when I close my eyes, I hear that wheeze. Dry, crackling, almost curious. And I wonder if he ever left that swamp, or if he's still out there, waiting for someone else to come close. Someone curious. Someone who won't run